So are we doing this because we care about the children and the people that need it, or are we doing this because we care about Froggy Fresh? And so we are back with more information on Creator Clash 2, and really, it looks like Froggy Fresh is definitely not coming back to the Creator Clash. And I will admit, that's a little bit disappointing, because I do feel like with him there, it would bring a lot more attention to the event, and honestly, this entire drama was kind of some free publicity, so I think a lot more people that didn't know what Creator Clash was are definitely going to know about it now, and if they were to let Froggy Fresh actually fight again, to be fair, I would actually watch his fight myself. Before, I wouldn't even have batted an eye to the fight that he was performing in, but now, it does seem kind of interesting. And gives his entire fight a whole new sense of weight, because not only does it turn into him versus Creator Clash, and if he were to get back in the ring, from an entertainment perspective, you know, as being someone that could potentially be watching from the sidelines, it's a lot more entertaining that way. But let's get down to the nitty and gritty. Creator Clash themselves made a statement about the entire situation, saying, as you may be aware, we recently announced Froggy Fresh would be leaving the Creator Clash 2 ticket. We want to provide some additional information around the rationale for this decision. To help clarify some of the online chatter, we have a legally binding code of conduct that each of our Creator Clash 2 fighters are held to, the violation of which is grounds for termination. Unfortunately, there were several violations made by Froggy Fresh during his tenure with Creator Clash this year. The Creator Clash 2 team, inclusive of the production company, takes violations seriously and made several unsuccessful attempts to address them directly with Froggy Fresh, in the hopes we could work together to get things back on track. When it became clear that the exhibited behavior wasn't stopping at risk to the other fighters, fans, and others involved in the event, the Creator Clash 2 team made the collective decision to move forward without Froggy Fresh on the ticket. Our number one priority is ensuring Creator Clash 2 is a positive, safe, welcoming space for everyone. Alright, now this really brings the question, what exactly was it that Froggy Fresh did? You know, most corporations and like that don't really explain or give you all the finer details. Some of them do, but most don't from what I've been seeing. Like, we can even use Twitch as an example. Just like when Dr. Disrespect got banned, they didn't really give a reason. I think the most that anyone would do would probably reference a single portion of their terms of service. Like, this guy went against Term 42, Article 538, and you just don't even, you've never seen that shit, because honestly, no one reads that. But anyway, in response to this, Froggy Fresh would ask, who tried to reach out to me several times, and what are the several violations? And this would directly reference the statement of them saying that the violations were serious and that they made several unsuccessful attempts to address them with Froggy Fresh. So there's definitely something fishy here, because they're saying that they reached out to him multiple times, and Froggy Fresh has no idea whether or not anyone was trying to reach out to him. He doesn't even know who was reaching out to him. So it comes to a matter of whether or not which one of them is actually lying. To be fair, that might not even be the case, because it's just a confusing situation all around. And there's definitely some inconsistency here. And we're going to take a look at Froggy Fresh's clarifications when it comes to a lot of the statements that are being used against him. So it's a problem because Froggy Fresh went to train with Sam Hyde, which is a little weird, but fine. And so, you know, Harley trained with Sam Hyde before, and there was no real problem, but when Froggy does it, it's a little weird, but fine. So how does that, I could kind of understand, what is that supposed to mean? Why is that a problem when he does it? So I can see his perspective here. Shortly after, he randomly took a jab at Anissa about her OnlyFans. He responds with, I said I would subscribe to Anissa's OnlyFans if I didn't beat Chris Ray Gun in the boxing match more than anyone could have imagined. It was light banter, and Ian has already said publicly that he is not bothered by his wife's decision to have an OnlyFans account. And if you've seen my last video covering this situation, I do think that this is also a pretty viable statement, because Idubbbz was saying, you know, jokes about the situation are fine, you know, it's nothing to be too concerned about, and then overall he doesn't care about his wife having an OnlyFans. And I can see why there's a bit of a confusion here, and I can also see why Idubbbz would not take too kindly to these comments. F it. It's probably not even Idubbbz. We don't know who's really upset over these comments, or if these comments were even the problem to begin with. But I feel like it gets a little iffy with this statement here, because let's take the context into account, right?
There seems to be substantial evidence that Chris Ray Gun is now on Adderall. Well, young man, amphetamines couldn't save Hitler, and they can't save you either. On April 15th, if I don't hurt you, beyond what anybody could have imagined, I will be so disappointed in myself that I will subscribe to Anissa's OnlyFans.
When he's talking about Chris Ray Gun, when he's making banter to Chris Ray Gun, he's bringing up Idubbbz. So to me, I feel like there's a little bit of inconsistency because Idubbbz doesn't really have anything to do with Froggy Fresh fighting Chris Ray Gun. Now, if Froggy Fresh was saying this kind of banter to Idubbbz, okay, it would be very funny and make a lot of sense. But in response to shitting on Chris Ray Gun, why is Idubbbz's wife on Froggy Fresh's mind? So that's where I kind of feel a little bit of if that makes sense, because obviously he did this to poke fun at Anissa and Idubbbz. There's really no other way that you can look at it and put two and two together and think he's not. It just really looks funny because in reference to Chris Ray Gun, he's going to talk about Idubbbz's wife. So I can understand why they're upset. It really does make sense as to why they're upset. However, this same joke also has layers to it, and that's what most people are not going to understand. So here's more context on Froggy Fresh's joke.
You know, Froggy Fresh comes back after training and makes a joke to Chris Ray Gun, his opponent, and says, hey, if I lose this fight, I'll sub to Anissa's, Idubbbz's wife's, OnlyFans. Now, the context of that joke is this. Anissa used to have a podcast with Chris Ray Gun, and people would joke that the two were dating. So Froggy Fresh is making the joke, if I lose, I'll sub to your girlfriend's OnlyFans. That is the joke.
Idubbbz's wife, Anissa, used to have a podcast with Chris Ray Gun, the same guy that Froggy Fresh made the joke in reference of, because that is the guy who is going to fight in the ring. Yes, it was in reference to Chris Ray Gun, but he is talking about another man's wife. He is, no matter what angle in which Froggy Fresh is going to throw that perfect spiraled football, Idubbbz is just going to be involved in that play because it's about his wife. The joke is supposed to be in reference to him talking about Chris Ray Gun's girlfriend, but that is not the guy's girlfriend. Honestly, it just shows a lack of respect when it comes to Idubbbz's relationship towards Anissa, and really, I mean, it shouldn't matter what Froggy Fresh thinks about their relationship, because at the end of the day, who the really cares? To be honest, the only thing I can really boil this down to is, like, you just shouldn't be joking about another man's wife no matter what the context is. Maybe it's excusable if you're on really good terms with that person, but outside of that, I feel like an indirect joke like the one Froggy did is just kind of miscued. Or at least it can be. Because most people are not going to know the 5D chess that was being used for the joke in the first place. But even taking that into consideration, honestly, you just shouldn't be joking about another man's wife. That's really all I can say about that. And that's if this was really the reason as to why they kicked him out of the Creator Clash. Also, make sure to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel a lot and I would appreciate it immensely. Anissa is incredibly involved with the fighters and works very close with all of them. Froggy says he can't speak on the behalf of the other fighters, but he does mention that she only ended up checking in on him after Sam Hyde retweeted him. Could this just be bad timing, or are they really just skeptical on whether or not Froggy Fresh is hanging out with Sam Hyde? Even though I do admit Harvey being trained by Sam in the first Creator Clash does kind of give a little bit of leeway as to why they would not be upset over him being involved with Sam. Maybe this timing could be coincidental, or maybe Froggy Fresh is onto something. But to be honest, I think it's no secret that they really don't associate and nor do they really appreciate Sam Hyde. But I do feel like they would have been a lot more angry at Harvey if that was the case. Then the next day, Anissa's mom responded making angry references to Froggy Fresh, which would insult his size and intelligence. She came to my Twitter thread, said I had brain damage, shrunken balls, and was an imp and was hoping that I was about to be replaced. And to Froggy, that seemed like enough evidence to really have in his mind that they were already discussing removing him. Because obviously, where would that come from? Of course, that wouldn't just be spat out of nowhere. He also joked that Idubbbz is a pimp, implying that Anissa is a whore. Froggy Fresh responds with, if Idubbbz enables Anissa to have a successful work career, which was only made possible from his own success, and then attacks people who joke about it, I mean, you saying Anissa is a whore is your own take. I'd say a more accurate title would be sex worker in this case. All of the fighters have to share a space. She should not be expected to do this with him after this. So, me saying I would subscribe to her OnlyFans if I lose, training with Sam Hyde, then responding to her mother's attacks with quote retweets is too much for them to handle. Ian already said publicly her OnlyFans doesn't bother him. So is it only Sam Hyde? What is going on here? PewDiePie currently has a video with up to 9.6 million views where he casually criticizes and laughs at memes about Anissa's OnlyFans. He is an invited creator guest to the event. He would have had access to every red carpet event, party, press event that would have been held, so she would have no problem sharing those spaces with him. Do you see the hypocrisy here? Yeah, I can definitely understand Froggy Fresh's point of view, because PewDiePie's there. Of course, he's going to have a lot more value because everyone's worried about statistics, numbers, subscribers, and all that other bullshit. So he's definitely not wrong for feeling that way, but the one thing that really just kind of makes me think that this is a bit twisted is because when it comes to the context, like I mentioned before, it comes to a point where, hey, I'm just sitting here making a joke about it online. The memes and all that other stuff aren't a problem. However, I feel like a majority of individuals cannot really tell what line that Froggy Fresh is standing on because they can't determine whether or not the joke was in good taste or if he's literally just being an asshole. You guys already know my stance. I personally just don't think it's good to just, make a joke about someone's wife in general. But I think when it comes to PewDiePie, he was just kind of, making fun of the situation as it happened. I know Froggy Fresh is kind of bringing it back to light in a funny ass way, but, what PewDiePie did came and passed. I will admit, he definitely shat on them and showed it to a lot more people, which is obviously a lot more than what Froggy Fresh ever did, but it comes to account where you look at PewDiePie doing this and you think, is he shitting on Idubbbz right now? Or if you look at Froggy Fresh doing that same thing and it feels like, hey, this guy is shitting on Idubbbz. You see, it all comes from the nature of the joke. What PewDiePie does in the very beginning, he clarifies how exactly he feels about Idubbbz in the very first couple of seconds.
This is a bit awkward because I really like Idubbbz. I don't know if I'm allowed to call him a friend because we don't really talk. But I respect him a lot. He's a good dude. I work with him. And I think a lot of people share this opinion that I have of him, if you enjoy my content at least. I would even go as far as say he's an important figure for the internet. Big words, okay? High pedestal. So what happened? What happened with Idubbbz to fall so far down to the low, disgusting, despicable, unexplainable title of simp? Idubbbz and simp. Those two things do not match. Idubbbz Chad. I just go booga-oo. What happened?
Like, really watching this video, he holds Idubbbz to a very high standard and he's just reacting to memes. And if anything, it kind of seemed like he was a little bit on Idubbbz' side the entire video. So I wouldn't really hold that as a point of favoritism for Idubbbz between another content creator, because a huge difference between what Froggy Fresh said and what PewDiePie says in his video is that Froggy Fresh said that he was going to actively go and look at Idubbbz' girlfriend naked. Of course, yes, that's what she does. That's what she allowed to be out there, and there's nothing wrong with him doing that. But it's the very fact that I feel like because it's an incentive for him to lose, and that's what I think really kind of puts the nail in the coffin. If I lose, I'm gonna look at Idubbbz' naked girlfriend. It's, when you put it in that sense, it's like looking at Idubbbz' girlfriend is a punishment, which it is, because that's what's going to happen if he loses, and obviously Froggy wants to win. However, PewDiePie's video just kind of grazed both perspectives of the entire situation, and really, he just ultimately ends up telling people that they shouldn't care about whether or not Idubbbz lets his girlfriend have an OnlyFans.
I wouldn't be okay with it. But I have to admit, at least he's exuberating some sort of confidence by saying publicly that he's okay with it. If he's truly fine with it, who cares? Who cares? Why do you care?
And I don't think that PewDiePie point is very viable in that sense, because he doesn't directly poke fun at Idubbbz. He just kind of gives his opinion and also laughs at a few memes of the entire situation. While in Froggy Fresh's case, as punishment for losing his boxing match, then he's going to look at Idubbbz' wife. I think some of you guys can at least see a little bit of the difference here. On to the next point. Froggy Fresh, has clearly never been involved in a serious and professional event on this level. And Froggy responds with, okay, what level is that? The one where you fire a fighter 3 weeks before their fight to extreme internet backlash because either A, I trained with Sam Hyde and you knew about it 2 weeks earlier, or B, I made a joke about subscribing to Anissa's OnlyFans if I didn't beat Chris badly, or C, I responded to Maureen's nasty attacks. I'm gonna just leave this one up to you guys. Comment down below whether or not you think he was being unprofessional or not. Unanimity amongst the fighters. Correct, I'm the only person on the card who doesn't obey all commands. Harley said he couldn't work with Sam again this year if it was related to Creator Clash. I've personally never been the type of person to let Idubbbz tell me who I can and can't train with when I didn't sign any documents or contracts stating that I wouldn't work with the said person. Other people feel differently than me. Everyone else falls in line and jumps when Ian and Anissa say jump. Even Harley wants a bite of the carrot, and Anissa ultimately holds the line. Good night. If what he's saying is true, then everything that I thought about in the last video would inevitably be correct, because I had a feeling that Anissa also would have been pulling the strings from behind. And honestly, I feel like Idubbbz is no stranger to letting everybody know that she was, the mastermind behind everything. Now, whether or not that makes or breaks Idubbbz for any of you is really the true question. Even though, to be honest, it really shouldn't matter at all. With that being said, there's still a lot going on Twitter, which is to be expected. Well, the real question I want to ask you guys is whether or not Creator Clash 2 is ruined because Froggy Fresh is not going to participate in the entire event. But even though we're taking that into consideration, I will admit, after watching the Twitter space that Keemstar had about the entire Creator Clash 2 with Sam Hyde, Harvey, Gideon, and a bunch of other individuals, I'm not going to name them all, they were all conversing, and I will admit it did seem like there was a lot of bandwagon mentality going on in support of Froggy Fresh. Just because the majority are supporting a side doesn't ultimately mean that that side is ultimately justified, and I want to throw that out there. I will say the majority does have a good idea on, what would be best for charity in this situation. Yeah, they say that multiple times, that the charity is the thing that everybody should think about, and yeah, that is good, but I will admit something does feel off with the constant stress on this fact. Definitely watch the Twitter space and come to your own conclusions, but the emphasis on charity in the conversation definitely stands out, because a lot of these guys are definitely pushing for Froggy Fresh to be in the event because, of course, this would get a lot more attention and help benefit charity. But however, just because a lot of people are saying shit on Twitter doesn't necessarily mean this event would suffer, because me, someone who did not even know what the hell that was going on with this situation, ended up knowing about the Creator Clash 2. I will admit it definitely got me interested based off of just the negative publicity. So I think just because Froggy Fresh isn't there, it's not going to hurt the charities, because the thing is, money is still going to charity regardless. Would it increase if he's there? Yes, but it also increased due to the negative publicity. There's no real damage that anyone could really predict that can be done, because other than that, it's really hypotheticals. So I don't think that's a viable point to use when it comes to handling Froggy Fresh's participation. Gideon mentions that he would drop 100K if they would allow Froggy Fresh to have a fight.
If Froggy Fresh comes back, I'll donate $100,000.
Oh God, you heard that?
Oh my God.
You heard that?
Oh my God. Breaking news.
Which is amazing because, 100K for charity. I'm down for that. But if you ask me, things do feel a little inconsistent, maybe even a little shady, depending on how you want to look at it. All right, so it's really hard to see the underlying intent here, because he is only offering 100K as long as Froggy Fresh comes back to Creator Clash 2. Okay, that's no big problem. Froggy Fresh can come back for 100K, but it really brings into question whether or not this same practice would be used if Froggy Fresh wasn't getting banned. Would this 100K still be into the question? Would this charity still be getting this money? It kind of just feels like Froggy Fresh is definitely being chosen a little bit more over the charity. It's the underlying intent behind it all, because clearly in this call you have people saying that they will donate to charities and for Froggy Fresh.
I'm going to donate it to the Cancer Society for Froggy.
So are we doing this because we care about the children and the people that need it, or are we doing this because we care about Froggy Fresh? This is where my real issue is. Most people don't care because regardless at the end of the day, the charities are going to get the money, but even then, there's a possibility that it wouldn't have happened. So little things like this should not go unnoticed. But I will say, as long as the charities end up getting the money, I am happy. So Froggy Fresh versus Chris Ray Gun is planned for June 2023. All they need now is for Chris Ray Gun to sign up for the fight.